Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Jim Ryan, and I'm the Dean of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. I can tell you're going to be a tough. I'm joined on stage by the Associate and Assistant Deans of the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and together it is our genuine pleasure to welcome all of you to this year's Convocation, especially the 701 students who will be graduating tomorrow. Congratulations. So we have a very full ceremony ahead of you, and it is multifaceted. We will be celebrating some outstanding for their achievement and their leadership. We will be recognizing an outstanding member and alumna. We will hear from a student speaker, a faculty speaker, and our convocation speaker, Roberto Rodriguez. My job is to be master of ceremonies, which I can tell you makes me slightly nervous because I'm not very good at multitasking. So I'll do my best to channel my inner Ryan Seacrest, but bear with me. I'd like to kick things off by inviting the chair of this year's class gift campaign to join me. Reena Deshpande is a master's candidate in the Mind, Brain, and Education program, and she chaired a class gift committee of 25 ed school students. Together, the committee chose to support a critical priority of the education school, financial aid for our incoming class of students. I'd like to thank all of you who have given, and I'd like to invite Reena to say a few words about the campaign and the amazing results. Reena.
Wow. This is like one enormous family. My name is Reena, and it has been my honor to represent our class as the class gift chair this year. Today, in this moment, I have the pleasure of recognizing a miracle. We label miracles as when timing converges, when truly unexpected comes to be. The fact that we are all here together today in this tent in Radcliffe Yard, with that synchronous clicking that we did of that submit application button, whether it was from Pakistan, America, Nigeria, Argentina, China, deciding with difficulty or ease to come and be here today, right now, this is a miracle. We are at Harvard. We are now and always a part of Harvard. We break records and we change the world together at Harvard. Yeah. Collectively, we united as a team of hundreds across 16 different program cohorts to invest in paying education forward to incoming classmen, someone or someones we don't even know. This gift, my friends, is a miracle. Yesterday in the Development and Alumni Relations office, I sat on the brink of a threshold, beating the all-time record ever of participation in the class gift. And of course, on Facebook, I placed that post, one gift left. And there goes Sarah Stump-Gossett. And then there goes another. There goes Ilya. More and more. And then a post from Ali Nomani. Can we donate twice? This record setting is no accident. This class is incredible. To give a little background, the U.S. News and World Report, APA citation, considered levels of 40% of alumni giving to be pretty amazing and 50% to be exceptional. It is my privilege to share that every single one of our 16 cohorts exceeded 50% participation, and we had 4 make 100% participation. Since this is our gift, I want to acknowledge those of us who made this possible. We've had an incredible class gift committee. In the Arts and Education program, Ellie Burke led the way. Thank you, Ellie. Education Policy and Management, led by Guy LaRoche, Dan Marion, Irteza Binte Farid, and Katie Mazer. Learning and Teaching, led by Risa Santoso. Thank you so much. Language and Literacy, led by Mariam Dabi and Holly Berner. Special Studies, led by Ashley Johnston. Technology and Education, led by Nick Giacobbe. The EDD program, led by Mark Johnson and Erica Lickey. And it goes above and beyond this because this isn't all 16. The higher ed program made 94% participation in climbing with the highest record of leadership level gifts ever. Amazing. Thank you, Lindsay Cullen, for leading. International Education and Policy, led by Shaylee Gupta, with the highest number of donors in that program at 63 people. Amazing job. Teacher Education Prep Program broke its own record while they were out in the field with Scott Boostabad leading. Thank you, Scott, 94%. And then to acknowledge our 100%ers. PSP, led by Kathy Chen, 100%. CAS, led by Tessa Hamilton and Kathy Chen, 100%. EDLD, led by Dilara Saeed, 100%. I think I said 4 before. Let me correct to 5. MBE, y'all don't know this yet. We just made 100%. Go us. Thank you to Myra Laldina and Mijang Takahashi for leading MBE. And SLP, the first group to make 100%. Way to go, Donna Cross. There she is. I haven't forgot anyone, right? My handwriting was all scribbly. So remembering that stat, that 50% is pretty exceptional, I'd like to now make the collective announcement that we at HGSE, class of 2015, have set an all-time record of 78% participation. That is 487 of you students, us in the room. We also had a small little goal of beating $15,391 from last year. We went a little above that. I'm pleased to announce that we have raised a total of $24,473.54 for financial aid. Perhaps the person who receives this financial aid will be somebody like you, somebody sitting next to you, somebody like me. Just one generation before me, my grandfather supported his family of 7 as a math teacher in Mumbai, India, Matunga, at an all-girls school. My father soon after immigrated with $8 in his pocket. And now I feel so grateful to stand here today. For all of you that have supported the students in the room, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, friends, teachers, nurses, doctors, babysitters, all of you who have helped to raise the people in the room, this is a symbol of what you have done to nourish us to continue paying it forward in the most important investment that there is, which is education. So thank you. Congratulations, class of 2015, and big welcome, class of 2016.
So I'm sorry we have to call this ceremony to an early close while I go cash a check. To all those who have given, I can tell you that you can expect in confidence you'll get a degree tomorrow. To those who have not yet gotten around to it, it's not too late. I'm kidding. I'm incredibly moved by the generosity. I view it as a testament to the incredible hard work on the part of faculty and staff. And I couldn't be more grateful to them and to all of you. So now it's my pleasure to present an important annual award recognizing a member of the faculty for excellence in teaching. The Morningstar Family Teaching Award was established in 2000 with a gift from Faith Morningstar, an HGSE alum twice over, and her husband, the Honorable Richard Morningstar, an alum of the college. Faith's experience here as a student inspired her and her family to create an award that would not only recognize great teachers, but also those faculty members that help build a safe and supportive environment for our students. I'm delighted that Faith, her son Tim, and her daughter-in-law Liz could join us for today's presentation, and I'd ask that they stand to allow us to thank them for their incredible support of teaching and learning at the Ed School. The Morningstar recipient is chosen each year based on nominations by HGSE students. The award includes a $5,000 prize and recognition on a plaque in Longfellow Hall. This year, 233 students submitted nominations for 47 faculty members. This outpouring of widespread praise is testament to the premium that every member of this community places on teaching and mentorship. And while this is never an easy decision to make, one faculty member's nominations rose above the rest this year. And now it's my pleasure to let you in on a secret, because normally we announce the recipient of this award at the last faculty of the whole meeting, but we were unable to do that this year because the faculty member was unable to attend. And so this will be the first time that this faculty member has heard that this faculty member, notice I'm not using a pronoun, is going to receive the award. Let me first read a few selections from the nominations of this year's winner. One student remarked, "As my professor, academic advisor, and mentor, this faculty member has exhibited a spirit of service and selflessness that has challenged me and changed me for the better." Another described the winner as an inspiration who artfully illuminates hope. One student wrote, "She merges the thought..." Sorry. That was a clue. She merges the thought leadership of an academic with the toolbox of a seasoned practitioner and packages it with love for her students and her communities. More clues. She was called a model of extraordinary leadership, an equity warrior, and a North Star. And that last phrase, North Star, is perhaps my favorite, because even through the darkness she experienced in her own life this year, when her beloved husband Cornelius passed away, she remained a beacon for her students. It's my pleasure to announce that this year's Morningstar Award winner is the incomparable Deborah Jewel Sherman. I think she knew all along. So the certificate reads, in recognition of your excellence in teaching and advising and your caring, respectful, and enthusiastic commitment to students. Deborah, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Now, for the 10th consecutive year, HGSE is recognizing a student from each master's program with an Intellectual Contribution Award. Master's students were given the opportunity to nominate a fellow student who most inspired their learning and intellectual inquiry over the course of the year. These lists of nominated students were then reviewed by the master's program directors who selected the honorees. I'm very pleased to introduce the 13 recipients of the 2015 Intellectual Contribution Award. As I read each student's name, she or he will step forward to receive a certificate and a gold honor cord to be worn tomorrow at commencement. The inscription on the certificate reads, in recognition of your academic achievement and your contribution to the academic life of HGSE, as nominated by your student peers and the HGSE faculty. From the Arts and Education Program, Aisha Upchurch. From Education Policy and Management, Jessica Lander. From Higher Education, Rachel Freeman. From Human Development and Psychology, Ola Abiose. From the International Education Policy Program, Nicolette Paulette Piedra. From the Language and Literacy Program, Heather Elgin. From the Learning and Teaching Program, Ahoba Arthur. From the Mind, Brain, and Education Program, Jane Everson. From the Prevention, Science, and Practice Program, Heather McCormick. From the School Leadership Program, Cornelius Lee. From the Special Studies Program, Maya Christina Ayub. From the Teacher Education Program, Elise Terry. And from the Technology, Innovation, and Education Program, Nicholas Jacoby. Congratulations to all. It's now my pleasure to present the 2015 Commencement Marshals. These marshals are elected by their peers for their leadership, their involvement in the HGSE community, and their commitment to service. Commencement marshals are honored as exemplary role models and representatives of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. 2 marshals are elected from each of the graduating EDD and EDLD classes, respectively. 1 marshal is elected from the CAS program, and 1 from each of the 13 master's programs. As I read each student's names, she or he will step forward to receive the medallion to be worn at tomorrow's commencement. The first EDD marshal, Aliyah El-Amin. Our second EDD marshal, Mark Anthony Johnson. Our first EDLD marshal, Ventura Rodriguez. Our second EDLD marshal, Ansel Sanders. Our marshal from the Certificate of Advanced Studies program, Lauren Ann Alexander. From the Arts and Education program, Taryn Alexandria Griggs. From the Education Policy and Management program, Jeantel White. From the Higher Education program, Gerardo Ochoa Sosa. From the Human Development and Psychology program, Sophie Veronica Von Garnier. From the International Education Policy program, Lucas Kailimang. From the Language and Literacy program, Holly Borner. From the Learning and Teaching program, Elliot Wallace Dixon. From the Mind, Brain, and Education program, Jessica Margaret Hennessy. From the Prevention, Science, and Practice program, Meishi Lim Hazlitt. From the School Leadership program, Christopher Jr. Thompson. From the Special Studies program, Adam George Malajor. And because she hasn't been hugged in a while, okay, now I've lost my place. From the Teacher Education Program, Matthew Joseph Flood. From the Technology, Innovation, and Education Program, Elliot Lee Mandel. He's a sharp dresser, that Elliot. It's now my pleasure to present the Phyllis Strimling Award. This award was created, well, first, I think one more round of applause for all the marshals. Like I said, it's now my pleasure to present the Phyllis Strimling Award. This award was created in 2000 to honor Phyllis Strimling, the former director of the Radcliffe Seminars program. Phyllis is an HGSE alumna from the class of 1989. I'm pleased to welcome Phyllis to today's convocation, as well as Holly Weeks, Rob Saklia, and Neil Yanofsky, the three former Radcliffe Seminars faculty who created the award. And I would ask that Phyllis and the committee please stand so that we can thank you for your generous support of our students. The Phyllis Strimling Award recognizes an HGSE student who works to advance society by advancing women, demonstrates inclusive leadership and is inspirational to others, promotes community as a management approach, and demonstrates both the ability to pull together and appreciate multiple perspectives and to make sound decisions. This year's winner is a 2015 master's candidate in the Special Studies program. Before coming to HGSE, she worked for 6 years as a science teacher at the Blackstone Academy Charter School in Rhode Island, and upon admission to our school was awarded a prestigious HGSE Urban Scholars Fellowship. She has dedicated herself to working with populations traditionally underrepresented in STEM education and ensuring that science education is rigorous, inclusive, and socially relevant. Next year, she will be teaching middle school math and science at the Conservatory Lab Charter School in Dorchester. Please join me in congratulating Elizabeth Shabuk. At this point, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the HGSE Student Council. The council is made up of students elected by their cohorts to represent the student body and to serve as advocates to the administration. This year's Student Council is to be commended for their role in organizing a number of social and academic events that help to bring our community closer together this year. But one event in particular stands out. On November 24th, a grand jury in Ferguson, Missouri, chose not to indict the police officer accused of shooting Michael Brown. The anger, frustration, and grief on our campus were palpable. But the Student Council worked tirelessly throughout the night to plan a community meeting and dialogue the next morning so that faculty, students, and staff could react to the news in a safe environment and in some way, some small way, begin to heal. It was as cathartic as it was powerful. I ask that the 2014-15 Student Council stand and be recognized for their hard work and service to students and to this entire community. I'd now like to introduce our student speaker, Ola Abiose. Ola is a 2015 master's candidate, and she has already received the Intellectual Contribution Award from the Human Development and Psychology program. A native of Cleveland, Ohio, Ola attended Washington University in St. Louis before coming to HGSE. During her time here at the Ed School, she has worked with high school students at Codman Academy in Boston and studied issues of stereotype threat, the link between social justice and education, and the effect of stress on a child's cognitive development and well-being. Please join me in welcoming Ola.
Good afternoon, students, faculty, staff, friends, loved ones, family, distinguished guests, alumni, and of course, the illustrious class of 2015. I feel so privileged to be able to speak with you today, especially because, to be honest, there are times this year I thought we'd never see it. Weather nice enough for an outdoor event. In all seriousness, I can't believe how quickly this year is gone. It feels like just yesterday that I was telling my friends about my decision to come to HGSE, with many of them reacting as if going to school to learn about education was just about the most meta thing one could do. But it's possible that they weren't wrong. This year, I have been astounded by the commitment to intellectual integrity among my peers and by efforts among faculty and staff to foster spaces of mutual engagement and dialogue. Perhaps there's no better example of this than this year's community conversation on fulfilling the promise of diversity. In fact, it wasn't until the process of writing this speech that I realized just how profound such a conversation was. I had been enjoying the many Ask With forums and diversity dialogues until all of a sudden, it hit me that I didn't actually know what the promise of diversity was. It wasn't the Ed School's fault. A lot of institutions talk about the importance of diversity and the importance of promoting such. Yet sometimes I can't help but wonder at the impulse to promote diversity, as if it isn't already an inextricable feature of our world. I wonder if the more gripping question is how we end up with structures and institutions that fail to reflect such. As feminist author Audre Lorde famously said, "It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences." And recent events have me seriously concerned that this inability to recognize is grounded in something very grave and fundamental: the simple fact that we don't know each other. Now, the question is not, why don't we know all 7 billion people in the world? I know we're ambitious at Harvard, but there are limits. Rather, the question is, when we turn our backs to stranded migrants in the Andaman or Mediterranean seas, why do we not see in those huddled masses a desperate yearning to be free? When we insist on deporting undocumented children and locking them up, why do we not understand that their families only want what's best for them, just like you and I? When we decide that 137 bullets fired at unarmed vehicle occupants is not grounds for guilt, why don't we know that to deny justice is to deny peace for families, for communities, and for our collective conscience? Now, I have to admit, for the sake of full disclosure, in the month and a half since I first wrote this speech, I've had to update that last section to keep in touch with the latest salient tragedy. And to be quite honest, there have been times this year where it's felt like watching history repeat itself in live time. So more urgently, I wonder, how many people will be silenced before we realize that there's actually no such thing as the voiceless? How many individuals have to die before we understand that we are bound to each other, I mean it quite literally. What exactly does it take for us to know each other? Or more specifically, to recognize our common humanity? At the risk of misinterpreting the intention behind this year's community conversation, I think that's precisely what's at stake in the quest to fulfill the promise of diversity. Of course, it's not something easily accomplished in a year or at HGSE itself. But the commitment to make the promise of diversity a paramount intellectual, and to be quite honest, human concern, means that these conversations start to look less like rare acts of bravery and more like responsibilities. As one of my classmates earlier in the year beautifully put it, education has the potential to either recreate society as it is or to reimagine society as we wish to see it. And I truly wish to see a world in which the promise of diversity is fulfilled, where we understand our shared humanity and we fundamentally know one another. And after seeing such vulnerability and bravery among the HGSE learning community this year, I trust that you will all have the courage to continue these conversations past these doors, past graduation day, and to help make that wish a reality. So for that, I say congratulations to the class of 2015, but more importantly, thank you.
Ola, thank you for that powerful speech, and I'd like to present to you a gift to commemorate the honor of being selected as a speaker and for the speech itself, which was just fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to now turn over the podium to the Saris Professor of Education and Economics and our beloved academic dean, Bridget Terry Long, who will introduce this afternoon's faculty speaker.
Good afternoon. It's wonderful to see you all, and thank you, Jim. I'm so pleased to introduce our 2015 faculty speaker, Dr. Karen Brennan. Karen joined the HGSE faculty as an assistant professor of education in 2012 after earning her PhD from the MIT Media Lab. Her research, as Karen describes it, is situated in the intersection of computing and communities. Karen is a strong advocate for computational literacy, studying and supporting students as they develop familiarity and fluency with computer science and computational design. It's kind of a mouthful. It's a lot of excellent work. In her work, though, she encourages learners not just to consume, but to design, code, and create their own digital and real-world experiences. For example, Karen led the development of Scratch Ed, an online community with over 15,000 educators as members, who used the Scratch programming language to share stories, resources, and questions. Now, while Karen is undoubtedly a talented scholar, the reason our students chose her to be this year's faculty speaker is because, in the few short years she has been with us here at HGSE, she's become one of the most beloved teachers on Appian Way. Students pack Asquith Hall, and often the hallways outside of Asquith Hall, to be a part of her courses. They describe her as caring, thoughtful, and brilliant, with an energy and an attitude that is infectious. One student summarized our feelings for Karen, writing, "When I look at Karen Brennan and the work and heart she has poured into HGSE and her students, I think, this is why I came here, for people like her." And so it is a great pleasure to introduce Professor Karen Brennan.
So several weeks ago, at the end of term, I was looking for a gift for the 5 teaching fellows of my spring course. And it's a somewhat reading-intensive course, and all 5 TFs are very passionate readers, so I thought, I'll get them a book. Maybe not super creative, but it was heartfelt. So I selected one of my favorites, Paulo Freire's Teachers as Cultural Workers, Letters to Those Who Dare Teach. And I thought I should reread it to make sure that it was a good selection. I did, it's a beautiful text. And as I was reading, there was a passage that lingered with me and came to me again as I was preparing for today. So as a way of framing my remarks, I wanted to share the passage with you. He wrote, "Throughout my life, I have never lost anything by exposing myself and my feelings, obviously within certain limits. I believe the best course of action is to face up to one's feelings. The best is to tell in a demonstration of being human and limited how one feels at the time." Inspired by these words, when I thought of all the things that I might say to you today, I thought the best, dear graduates, was to tell you how I feel about you. I'm going to do this in 10 minutes and in 3 parts. Oh, yes. First, I will begin with a confession. Next, I will share a realization. And finally, it's nothing bad, I promise. And finally, I will end with a construction. So first, the confession. It was not so long ago that I made the transition from graduate student to faculty member. As Bridget mentioned, I completed my PhD at MIT, and my very last day as a graduate student was October 31st, 2012. On this final day, I had to do 3 things. First, I had to go find my advisor. His name's Mitch. He had to sign something. Next, I had to bring a physical copy of my dissertation to the head administrator of our academic unit. And then finally, I had to bring something to the library. I don't remember what. It clearly was not important. So I march into my advisor's office, dissertation in hand. I am so proud of myself. I'm feeling very pleased with myself. I sit down in this chair that I've sat in for what feels like thousands of times over the past 5 years. He signs what he needs to sign, and then there's this moment, this pause. And out of nowhere, seemingly, I am struck by intense feeling. Now, I'm not a big crier, but I start crying. I've been working with my advisor for 5 years, and I don't think he's ever seen me cry. And these aren't like lovely, dainty tears. I am bawling. It is full-on ugly crying. I am yelling at myself in my head to stop crying. There's no crying at MIT. MIT can be a bit macho. I say that with all the love in my heart. But I was so overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed with gratitude. I was grateful to my advisor. I was grateful to the members of my research group. I was grateful to everyone at the Media Lab. I was grateful for all the amazing opportunities I had had over the years, and very fundamentally for how changed I felt by the place, by MIT. And so I dare to look at my advisor, and he looks a bit sheepish. And in this moment, I don't understand the expression on his face, but silently, calmly, he passes me a box of tissues. I take a few tissues, I compose myself, and with what very little remains of my dignity, I thank him, and I continue along with the rest of my day. This leads us to part 2. The realization. So let's fast forward just a little bit. It's now May 2013. I've been here as a faculty member at HGSE for several months. I have an amazing group of advisees. Everyone here, as you well know, is absolutely wonderful. I'm incredibly happy. It is the week before graduation 2 years ago, and I find myself in my office with one of my advisees. She's come in, she sits down, and she starts sobbing. She's thanking me, she's thanking her friends, she's thanking the program, she's thanking HGSE. She's talking about how changed she feels by this place. I reach for the box of tissues on my side table, I hold them out, and I feel this sheepish expression forming on my face. And in this moment, I have an intense feeling of deja vu, followed by a realization. And it is this realization that I wanted to share with you today. Now, full disclosure, this is probably something you already know. In fact, I hope you already know, but I think it's so important that I think it's worth repeating and stating explicitly. Yes, maybe you're feeling this gratitude, but I needed you to know that whatever gratitude you might be feeling is reciprocated. You might feel changed by this place, but you change this place. You are the heart and soul of this place. You inspire us, you energize us, you help us be better. You change us. Finally, part 3, the construction. So after this student left my office, I felt this urgency to capture this idea, this understanding, this notion of being changed and changing others, changing the world around you, and I didn't want to lose it. So I rummaged around on my desk, and I found an index card and a pen, and I wrote myself a note, and I tucked the note into my desk drawer. As I was preparing for today, I was looking at this note, and I wondered, what do you want to hold on to? Could we use some of this time here today to help you hold on to that? What is that idea? What is that feeling that you want to take away with you, whether you've been here for a couple of hours as a family member or friend, for months, for years? So this is somewhat unorthodox for Convocation, but I figure I only get to do this once, so go big or go home. So we're gonna try and do this. We're gonna inject an activity into Convocation. You didn't think you were gonna get me up here and just talk at you for 10 minutes. So everyone here will create something to hold on to. Okay? Now you're probably wondering how this is going to work, and that's a very reasonable question. So like I had, I'm going to give you an index card and a pen, and you'll have 2 minutes to create this note to yourself. Maybe it's a word, maybe it's a drawing or a sketch, maybe it's a phrase or a quote. You don't have to do this on your own. You can work with your neighbor. That's totally fine. And if you can't think of anything right now, that's fine. Treat it as space for reflection. And when you're done, this note is yours to hold on to tuck away, to later rediscover. And if you'd like to share it with others, take a photo of it. Post it on something like Twitter or Facebook. Use the hashtag HGSE15. And so when the 2 minutes are over, I'll let you know, I'll make an announcement. We're gonna have 2 minutes, so this is really lightweight. If you're wondering, we've taped an envelope under your chair. Okay? Also up here. Oh yeah. You've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 30 seconds. Okay, that's been 2 minutes. So I wanted to end by sharing with you what I put on my index card 2 years ago. It is as apt today as when I wrote it then. At the time, I was totally obsessed with the French author Albert Camus, and I was reading his personal notebooks. So on the index card, I wrote a single line from that text. If those whom we begin to love could know us as we were before meeting them, they could perceive what they have made of us. Graduates, thank you so much for everything. It has been an honor learning with you and from you. I wish you every happiness and success. Congratulations.
Karen, thank you so much. We have a gift to thank you for that terrific speech. So I've been dean too long because I have to confess I had this mild hope envelope taped under a chair that there'd be another check in there. But I will tell you what my card says. It says, I want to hold on to this card to remember the most creative faculty talk ever. Thank you. So how are we doing? I'm feeling like we could use an inch or two of snow right about now. It's my distinct pleasure to now introduce the newly appointed chair of the Alumni Council, Jonathan Steele, who will be presenting the 2015 Alumni Award for Outstanding Contribution to Education. Jonathan earned his master's in the higher education program at HGSE in 2005, and he brings more than 14 years of experience in higher education marketing and consulting experience to the council. I'm delighted and grateful that he's agreed to serve. He is currently a vice president at GDA Integrated Services, a market research and consulting firm where he has worked closely with more than 100 colleges and universities. Please join me in welcoming Jonathan Steele.
Thank you and good afternoon. Established in 1985, the Alumni Council Award for Outstanding Contribution in the Field of Education is chosen by the Alumni Council after receiving nominations from our more than 25,000 alumni from around the globe, to which we're going to be adding a few more happy members tomorrow. The award recognizes an alum with significant service in the field of education above and beyond the basic requirements of the profession, far-reaching impact in their work, and consistent track record of continued dedication to education-focused issues. Past winners have included Jeffrey Canada, EDM 1975, President and CEO of the Harlem Children's Zone, Mary Jo Bain, MAT 1966 and EDD 1972, former Assistant Secretary for Children and Families of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and Thomas Pezant, MAT 1963, CAS 1966, and EDD 1968, U.S. Assistant Secretary of Education. This year, we recognize Denise Junot, EDM 1994, the Montana State Superintendent of Public Instruction. I'd like to take a moment to read her citation from the award to give you a better sense of her accomplishments and the tremendous impact of her work. I'm not even going to try to read this while I'm holding it because I will be in big trouble if I drop it. An educator, administrator, and passionate advocate for underserved students, Denise M. Juneau has dedicated herself to providing educational opportunities for all students. A member of the Mandan and the Hidasta tribes, Juneau was the first Native American woman to be elected to statewide office in Montana. As a member of a Native American reservation, Juneau saw firsthand the problem plaguing Native students. Her work in the Montana Office of Public Instruction is focused on ensuring that all students statewide receive a quality education. Juneau has overseen the implementation of Montana's Indian Education for All program, which teaches public school students about the state's Native American heritage. She has founded a student advisory board to give Montana's young people a greater voice in their own education. She has also worked to combat high school dropout rates with Graduation Matters Montana. Her reform efforts across the state have helped raise test scores and create support for educators and students in many rural communities. For these and other profound contributions to education, it is with great respect that we bestow the 2015 Harvard Graduate School of Education Alumni Council Award upon Denise M. Juneau, EDM 1994. Unfortunately, Superintendent Juneau was unable to join us today for convocation because of an important family reason, but I know she is honored and humbled to receive this award, and it's my pleasure to accept it on her behalf.
Thank you, Jonathan. So it's now my pleasure to introduce our final speaker, this year's convocation speaker, Roberto Rodriguez. Roberto serves as the Deputy Assistant to the President for Education, and by President, I mean President Obama. That's worth clapping for. As a member of the White House's Domestic Policy Council, Roberto is essentially the President's right-hand person for education issues and the West Wing's chief education policy expert. John Merrow, the education journalist, and like Roberto, an alum of this school, once wrote that Roberto would be on his list of candidates for the single most influential American educator, both because of his deep expertise in education policymaking and his top advisory position in the executive office, a role that might not always attract headlines, but one that carries enormous responsibility and influence. In his role with the Office of the President, Roberto coordinates the policymaking and monitors the implementation of the administration's various education initiatives, from early learning through college and career training. Just to cite a few examples, when the President called on Congress to fund high-quality preschool for every 4-year-old, he turned to Roberto to help him get his message out. When the President announced a push to evaluate American universities in an effort to make them more accountable and affordable, we heard Roberto on NPR with Tom Ashbrook talking about a somewhat controversial policy. And when the President announced a plan to expand college access, Roberto took over the White House Facebook account to host an open question and answer session about the plan. It's easy to understand why President Obama offered Roberto this job, and it's not just because he's an alum of this school, although I'm sure that had a huge part to play in it. It's also because he had previously served as Chief Education Counsel to the late Massachusetts Senator Ted Kennedy, who was chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. Working with Senator Kennedy, Roberto managed the Democratic education agenda for the committee and led policy development and strategy for legislation addressing early childhood education, elementary and secondary education, higher education, and adult education. Indeed, I think during his time on the Hill, he played a role in the reauthorization of just about every major piece of federal legislation, from the Elementary and Secondary Education Act to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Head Start, Child Care, Higher Education, and the America Competes Act. Roberto may not even remember at this point what his life was like before Capitol Hill or the White House, but it's a testament to his commitment to improving educational access and opportunity for students across the country that he also worked as senior education specialist at the National Council of La Raza, where he conducted research and analysis of federal and state education reform issues, as well as the development and evaluation of community-based education programs. One of our faculty members, Karen Mapp, who has worked closely with Roberto on a number of federal policy issues related to family engagement and building strong partnerships between children's homes and schools, had this to say about Roberto, and I think her words are very telling. She called him a quiet but forceful warrior for social justice. And in this year, when we focus so much of our attention, and rightly so, on the very public and complex issues raised by the events in Ferguson, Baltimore, and cities across America, I'm delighted to welcome someone who has devoted his life's work to designing and championing policies designed to assist those whose voices are often the hardest to hear, including children who've been disadvantaged by poverty and unequal opportunity. Roberto, thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to return to your alma mater and share a bit about your experiences with all of us. And I ask that the rest of you please join me in welcoming Roberto Rodriguez. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. I'm humbled by this warm welcome. Thank you so much to Dean Ryan, to the Speakers Committee, to this esteemed faculty, and to all of the guests here today. What a beautiful day for Convocation. It is wonderful to be back here at HGSE, to be back here on Appian Way celebrating with you. To the 700 graduates and their families gathered here this afternoon, congratulations on your accomplishments. This is a momentous day. You know, right about now, you're feeling the culmination of a long journey of many years of study. You'll look back from today as your degree hangs on your wall, or in my case, my family's, it hangs right next to the front door so everyone can see it. I hope it'll remind you of your formative time here, your fun times here at the Ed School. I hope it'll remind you of those long hours and late nights at Gutman, of meeting your study group at Burdick's for coffee or for drinks at Charlie's, of your orientation to the Ed School, reminding you of why you deserve to be here, to be part of this community, and of learning, of course, from some of our nation's best thinkers in education. While here, you've received the most excellent preparation imaginable from one of the world's finest institutions of higher learning. You and yours have every right to be proud. Yes. But before you pop that champagne back home, I know some of you have already popped that champagne earlier today. Take a moment with me while you sit here on this beautiful day to reflect upon your accomplishments. Consider how this journey started for you. What brought you here? Who inspired you? Who helped carve out your unique place here at the Ed School? This is a special homecoming for me. Years ago, like you, I came here seeking knowledge and skills to lead. I was in search of a strategy to remedy some of the injustices I had witnessed, just most recently in Detroit, working with families and with students in a school district that had left entire neighborhoods behind. So I examined the culture of schools with the great Sarah Lawrence Lightfoot, I sat down with Gary Orfield, unpacked school segregation. I explored the psychology of adolescence and risk and resilience. Like you, I came here ready to stoke a passion for changing the world. I engaged in the educational debates of our time. I formed lasting friendships that are lasting a lifetime for me. At the time, we joined with the K School just down the street. We hosted a national debate on language, politics, and policy with the Institute of Politics. Ron Unz and Congressman Mike Honda center stage. So I know your days too have been filled with this same passion for change in our system. And like you, I came here deeply committed to serve. Now on graduation day, take a look around. Chances are at the Ed School, you won't see mortar boards pasted with $100 bills. No, our reward comes in setting the stage to encourage and inspire learners of every age to discover their own gifts and their own potential. And like you, I have experienced special, unforgettable, personal moments during my time here. Running between lectures, study dates at Gutman, trips down the road to Cambridge, Rindge, and Latin, I met an amazing and beautiful woman who shared my interests, who inspired me, who really challenged me, made sure I brought my A game. She's still very good at that. I'm blessed to look out and see my wife, Rocio, with me today, not too far from where we sat together 17 years ago. Our journey since then has also given us two amazing children who are our best teachers, Isabela Mia and Roberto Andres. I love you. I want to share words this afternoon from Dr. King, who once said, "We are all inextricably linked, connected in a web of mutuality. What happens to one of us affects us all." Dr. King was right. What occurs thousands of miles away to a young girl named Masala Youssef, or even just hundreds of miles away to a young man named Michael Brown, deeply affects us all. And if you agree with Dr. King's premise, then it is bound to have a profound impact on what you choose to do with the rest of your life. It will lead you to consider the distinction between a vocation and a profession. See, professional roles will evolve over a lifetime. They change depending on where we go, what we choose to do, where we choose to live. Our vocation, that is the constant voice, unique to each of us individually. It's the calling within us that compels us forward, no matter what the position we hold, the obstacles we face, or the opportunities that we uncover. Our vocation connects us to one another. It inspires us to live a life marked not just by our own prosperity, but by the success and well-being of others. It compels integrity and humility. It gives us the courage and the persistence to pursue change, even when everything or everyone around us tells us that we can't. Our vocation awakens within us that sense of discontent as the world as it is, and it drives us to create the world as it should be. Graduates, it's our vocation that enables us to leave our mark on this world. It's our signature character, our compass, our unique contribution. So whether you go on to become a teacher, a counselor, or a principal, a school superintendent or a college faculty member, an education researcher, a policymaker, or a budding education entrepreneur, if you support education in any way, then this vocation is yours. It is ours, and we must celebrate it. And your presence here today also demonstrates another important belief, and that's your commitment to fostering education as the first rung on that ladder of opportunity that defines our shared dreams as Americans. You know, we know that through education, this dream is attainable. I wouldn't be standing here without it. My story is one of an immigrant son. I'm the first generation of that dream realized in my own family. In their highest hopes, they'd never have expected me to be walking through the doors of the White House every morning. It's a dream that millions of our young people and their families hold on to. You and I, we've been in it and through it, and we hold that dream in our hearts. We hold it for those families, for those students, for those communities. But not all have enjoyed the same opportunity as you and I. Rising income inequality, pockets of obstinate poverty, they've placed that dream at risk. So you might ask, what's at stake? Well, it's not just our economic means. A great moral standard is at stake, because our ability to prepare not just some, but all of our children to succeed, that is the test of our nation's most fundamental democratic principles of fairness, of equality, of justice, of dignity. I stand here before you 32 years after A Nation at Risk, 60 plus years after Brown v. Board. It's not just that we've left too many of our sons and daughters behind. It's not just that we've failed to bridge those opportunity gaps that persist in our neighborhoods and in our schools. It's how far we still must go to fulfill the promise of opportunity for every single child across our country. It's how far we still must go to provide preschool for millions of our children and to commit ourselves to those high expectations that will prepare our young people to graduate ready for their future. It's how far we still must go to fund our schools equitably, to attract, to support, to keep the best and brightest in public education. It's how far we still must go to remedy the pernicious poverty and racial discrimination that segregates, isolates, and ignites our cities, from Baltimore to Ferguson. How far we still must go to fully engage and respect our families and our parents in this journey for change. It's how far we still must go to unleash innovation and creativity in our classrooms, to break a culture of teaching to the test, and to equip our students for success in an economy that is fueled by innovation, by imagination, by inquiry. I know you're going to enter this fight ready as I did, to give it your all, to throw yourself at these problems, to fix as many of them as possible. You'll learn many lessons along that way. With your indulgence, I'd like to share just a few of my own. I've learned first to always know who I'm fighting for and why. You know, there's no greater testament to the values that we fight for than those who live them. And one of the things I first learned about our president when I met him was his deep commitment to advancing opportunity for every young person and adult through our education system. You know, the president is great at connecting with people, listening to their stories, and at those moments when he's connecting with others around him on education, those are my favorite moments. Now, as you can imagine, it is not easy for the President of the United States to make those personal connections sitting there in the White House. So he has two options. The first option is what we call the bear is loose. This is when the president decides to walk out of the White House or wherever else he happens to be to stroll around and engage people like a normal person. Only he's followed with a bevy of aides and Secret Service guard and a White House press corps. The bear was loose just a few weeks ago when he shared a cup of tea and a conversation on teaching and learning with our 2015 National Teacher of the Year, Shanna Peoples. So no, a more frequent mode of connection for our president is through his personal correspondence. Each evening, the president reads letters addressed to him from Americans across the country. These letters are taken from thousands that we receive at the White House each day. The notes are a reflection of what Americans want the president to know. They capture their experiences, their successes, and their struggles. One of those letters I want to share with you today. It came from a young man named Matthew Pointer. He's a varsity basketball player at Southgate High School in South Central Los Angeles. Matthew notes in his letter that he plays ball to keep his grades up and because he knows it'll make him a better person. At a recent away game at Beverly Hills High, Matthew and his teammates were walking over to the gym. They passed some classrooms and they peered inside. They noticed just how many resources that school had compared to their own. Had iPads for every student. Matthew was struck by this contrast, and he wrote, "I don't know if it's because we're a minority as a community or maybe because of our location, but I really feel that these supplies, computers, classrooms, even pencils and paper, should be equally distributed to all schools, no matter what district or what location. What makes schools like Beverly Hills and Redondo Union better than us? Is it the students? To some kids, school is the only thing that can help them make it out of where they're stuck. You want change? Give us a chance and we'll do our part by doing a good job in school." So each night, the president reads letters like these. And every morning, I receive his binder back with his questions scribbled in the margins of these notes. They read, "Can we help? Is this true?" Or sometimes simply, "Fix this." Now, for Matthew, the president wrote back. He shared his own experiences playing basketball in high school, and he encouraged him to keep continuing to lift his voice up for his community. And that simple act bridged the distance between the president of the United States and a young man in South Central LA. But it also reminded all the rest of us in a very vivid way why we do this work. Because I tell you, you will need reminders like that. At times, your impact is going to be hard to discern. You might feel like you haven't even lived up to what you thought you could achieve. But be patient, be persistent, and measure your progress in increments. This is the second thing I've learned. There are no shortcuts to meaningful change. Don't get me wrong. Impatience can be a virtue. It's what lights the fire within all of us to act. But ultimately, what matters is how you play the long game. You know, in the fierce urgency of today, we're all too often rewarded for the short games, for those short wins. Teachers and principals feel that pressure to move those test scores. Superintendents feel that pressure to quickly turn around that low-performing school. College faculty feel that pressure to publish that article. Policymakers feel that pressure to pass that bill before those political tides change. When I graduated from the ed school, I seized the chance to meet and solve many of the challenges in education that you'll encounter. I began my career, as was noted, as an advocate for civil rights, fighting to improve life opportunities and outcomes for the Latino community. I worked on the Education Committee in the United States Senate, and today I work with the President of the United States at the White House. And 17 years later, after sitting right where you were in those very chairs, I can tell you I haven't fixed our educational system, much less solved poverty. I haven't remedied those injustices. The magnitude of the challenges in front of us can sometimes be humbling. Chances are you and I will still be waging these battles decades from now. And when I become impatient about the challenges ahead in our system, I'm reminded by one of my personal heroes, a man who I was deeply privileged to have known and learned from, the late Senator Edward Kennedy. You know, during the time in the US Senate, Senator Kennedy stood at the forefront of momentous battles in education. Like President Obama, the senator was a champion of human rights, of civil rights, of social justice. One of the skills I learned from the senator was to collaborate, to seek common ground. Senator Kennedy was brilliant at bridging the partisan divide. He searched out and always found common ground for what binds us together as humans across our differences. He found common ground in the shared desire to fix what's broken. He found it in the willingness to listen to the other side and to compromise in the pursuit of a larger goal. With each of his landmark bills, the senator was a fierce negotiator. He battled over what mattered most, but he also forged tough compromises. He always remained focused, not just on his policy objectives, but on his core values, on his vision for what our country and for what we can achieve. In my time in Washington, I've learned that the problems of our day are rarely solved by the strength of one's own convictions and beliefs. Rather, they're met through a partnership with a clarity of objective, with an open heart and mind to working together through differences. No one large problem is solved by one individual alone. As I have, you will undoubtedly encounter those who are skeptical of that collaboration, of that compromise. Those moments will require you to challenge your own assumptions behind why you do this work and for whom you do it. In those moments, you'll pause, you'll breathe, you'll remember to stay true to yourself, to have faith in yourself, to make your own decisions about when to give and when to stand your ground. In those moments, you'll discover what it means to live your values, to live out that vocation that will guide your career. And finally, you'll remember that your success is measured not just by whether you win or lose a fight. There'll be many of those across the time of your career, but by how you bear witness to the challenges around you that you're working to fix. Examples set by countless men and women of conscience, of ability, of vision, remind us of what it means to bear witness. I'm going to share the story today of a leader who bears witness. A young student named Anahi Mendoza, who reminds us of what's possible when we work to change a broken immigration system. Anahi's advocacy began while she was still in high school, helping her fellow dreamers apply to college. Her journey led her on to college, to study alongside her peers, to advocate for the undocumented, so that they could have the same opportunities that she did. Last year, we honored Anahi at the White House as a champion of change. This past March, she visited with President Obama in the Oval Office. And tomorrow, Anahi will receive her undergraduate degree from Harvard College. She'll join all of you as part of the class of 2015. Anahi and so many other leaders like her, they don't relieve us of the obligation to perfect our union. They remind us of that obligation. They remind us that we are the difference. Graduates, how far we still have to go to meet that great test of opportunity for all. This work desperately needs you. Remember along your way to ask yourself, can we help? Is this true? And sometimes to simply say, fix this. God bless you, class of 2015. Go out there and be the difference. Thank you.
Roberto, thanks so much for that terrific speech. So we have come to the close of this ceremony. I would just like to say a few words of thanks and then pass along a few announcements. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Office of Student Affairs for coordinating all of our commencement activities. And in particular, I'd like to thank Alex Galindo, the commencement coordinator. Kevin Bohm, Tracy Jones, Eileen Berga, Laura Arena, and Liz Thurston. To all of our students, please be sure to be ready on Appian Way tomorrow morning promptly at 7:30 a.m. That does sound early, doesn't it? For the university commencement exercises. I've also been asked to remind you to bring your Harvard IDs with you, as you may need them during the day. In the yard, I will formally present you in an interesting ceremony to President Faust. I really encourage you to make noise when I do so. The Ed School is always one of the loudest schools, and I'd love to keep that tradition going. Finally, I'd like to extend an invitation to all of our graduating students, as well as their family and friends, to attend the celebration dance here tonight under the tent starting at 7 p.m. I hope to see many of you here and to have one last chance to do the wobble with all of the... and one last word of thanks to all the folks in my office, in particular Meredith Lamont and Nate Hinchy, who are standing over there, who have been hugely helpful to me on the whole 2 days of graduation. So I will have much more to say tomorrow, but for now, thank you all for attending. Thanks to the speakers, who were all superb, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.